Today we're going over the craziest punishments in ancient civilizations. Number 1. Decimation. The Roman army built the most disciplined fighting machine in the ancient world, and they did it partly by turning soldiers into executioners of their own friends. The punishment was called decimation, and the name tells you exactly how it worked. Decimus means a tenth. A unit breaks in battle, runs from the enemy, or mutinies in camp. The commander decides the whole group is guilty, but he can't kill hundreds of his own men. So he picks a number, 1 in 10. The soldiers line up, and they draw lots. Every 10th man, chosen purely by the unlucky straw, steps forward. The straw in your hand decided everything. A veteran of 20 years and the coward who ran first drew from the same cup, and the unlucky one stepped forward. And then the 9 men who drew safe lots are handed clubs and stones, and they're ordered to beat the 10th man to death themselves. The friend they marched beside, ate beside, slept beside, and they have to do it with their own hands while he looks at them. The general Crassus did this to his troops in 72 BC during the war against Spartacus, after 2 legions turned and ran. Survivors got a second helping of punishment, kicked outside the camp walls to sleep in the open on rations of barley instead of wheat. And the word outlived the practice. Decimation always meant one exact thing: 1 man in 10, killed by the other 9. The whole population meaning we use today came later, long after the clubs were put away. Number 2. The stake. It's around 1110 BC in Egypt, in the city of Thebes, and the dead are getting robbed. A stonemason named Amenpanufer and his crew take copper tools and tunnel straight through the wall of a royal pyramid into the tomb of King Sobekemsaf, who's been buried for 400 years. And we know all of this because the man confessed, and his confession survived on a papyrus you can still read today. Amenpanufer describes peeling the gold off the king's mummy, stripping the amulets from his neck, setting the coffins on fire, and walking out with an armload of gold and silver. The court got the truth out of him the hard way. The records describe beating the suspect's hands and the soles of his feet with a double rod until he talked, then marching him back to the tomb to act out exactly how he'd done it. And the sentence was the stake. They sat the condemned man down on a sharpened wooden pole driven upright into the ground, and his own body weight did the rest, dragging him down the point over hours, out in the open where the whole city could watch. The strange thing is who ended up on those stakes. The men impaled were often the same laborers who'd built the tombs in the first place. And in one case, the mayor accused of running the whole robbery ring was handed control of the investigation into himself. He cleared his own name, kept his job, and the 8 workmen under him were dragged off to the point instead. Number 3. The chair of skin. The Persian Empire ran on judges, and one of them, a royal judge named Sisamnes, took a bribe and handed down a crooked verdict. King Cambyses II found out, and the king did not believe in fines. So he had Sisamnes arrested and flayed, the skin stripped off his body in sheets. The old historians argue over whether they cut his throat first or peeled him while he was still breathing, and neither version is a good afternoon. Either way, the man ended up as a pile of meat and a pile of skin laid out separately. Then Cambyses got creative with the skin. He had it cut into strips, tanned into leather, and stretched tight across the seat of the judge's chair, the same chair Sisamnes had sat in to sell his verdicts. The bench of justice, now upholstered in the judge who broke it. And the king wasn't done. He appointed a new judge to that chair, and the new judge was Otanes, Sisamnes' own son. So picture the son climbing into the seat for his first day on the job, lowering himself onto leather cut from his own father, with the king standing there telling him to remember exactly whose skin he was sitting on. The story goes that Otanes turned out to be one of the most honest judges Persia ever had, which, sitting on that chair, I believe. Now, how solid is this? The whole story comes from Herodotus, a Greek writing about a Persian king his own people feared and hated, and he had a habit of making Persian rulers sound as mad as possible. Flaying was a real punishment in the region, so the method holds up. The chair may just be the detail that made the story too good to ever die. Number 4. The boats. Everything we know about this one comes from a single Greek writer named Plutarch, who got it from an even older source named Ctesias. It's around 401 BC, and a Persian soldier named Mithridates is about to die very slowly. At the Battle of Cunaxa, two royal brothers fought for the Persian throne. King Artaxerxes won, and his rebel brother Cyrus died in the chaos. Mithridates was the soldier who actually struck Cyrus down, hurling a dart into his temple without even realizing he just killed a prince. The king wanted the whole empire believing he'd killed his brother with his own hands. Then Mithridates got drunk at a banquet and bragged to the room that he was the one who really did it. So the king sentenced him to the boats. The executioners took two hollow boats built to fit together, laid Mithridates on his back in the bottom one, and clamped the second one on top, leaving his head, his hands, and his feet sticking out into open air. Then they fed him. They poured milk and honey down his throat until he was full, smeared the same sweet mixture all over his exposed face, and pushed the boats out onto the water. And the flies came first. The milk and honey and his own filth coated his skin, so insects swarmed the exposed flesh and laid their eggs in it, while the guards rode back every day to feed him again and keep him breathing for the maggots. By Plutarch's count, Mithridates lasted 17 days. That's about how long it takes a banana to go fully black and collapse on the counter, except it was a grown man. The catch is that none of it might be true. Not one Persian record mentions this punishment anywhere. The whole story rides on Ctesias, a Greek writer famous for inventing wild tales about the East to make the Persians look like monsters. Number 5. The sack. Rome kept a special death for exactly one crime: killing your own parent. A man strangles his father or stabs his mother, and the city reaches for the sack. The earliest case we can actually name is from around 100 BC. A man named Publicius Malleolus murdered his mother, so they sewed him into a leather sack and threw him into the sea, and he went under and never came back up. And the full ritual was a whole production. First, the executioners flogged the condemned man with rods until his back ran red. Then they covered his head, jammed his feet into wooden clogs, stuffed him into a heavy leather sack, stitched the mouth of it shut, hauled him to the water, and pitched the whole bundle in to sink. Then Rome started adding the animals. By the time of the Emperor Hadrian, in the 2nd century AD, the sack came with company. First a snake, then a monkey sewn in right alongside the man. So picture it from the inside. A grown man in total darkness, underwater, sharing a leather bag with a panicking dog, a snake, and a monkey, all clawing and biting in the same few feet of space. But that famous version is mostly a legend that grew over time. Malleolus, the first man we have on record, went into his sack alone with no animals at all. Snakes show up first under the early emperors, and the full set of 4 doesn't appear in the law until a jurist named Modestinus writes it down in the 3rd century. And there's an obvious problem with the whole picture, because stitching a live dog, a monkey, a rooster, and a snake into one bag with a man is almost impossible to actually pull off. So the 4-animal sack may have been built to scare people far more than it was ever carried out. Number 6. The plank. Athens gets remembered as the birthplace of democracy, the city of philosophers in white robes. It also strapped people to boards and left them to rot in public. The punishment was called apotemponismos. The executioners took a tall wooden plank and fixed the condemned man to it standing up, clamping iron bands over his body to pin him in place, then raised the whole plank on a hilltop or at a crossroads where everyone passing could see it. The man hung there for days, while thirst and the crows did the slow work. Picture a crucifixion, where the cross is a flat board and the nails are iron clamps. For a long time, this was only words in old texts. Then the shovels hit it. In the Phaleron Delta Cemetery near Athens, archaeologists dug up a mass grave packed with roughly 80 young men. 3 dozen of them with wrists still locked in iron shackles. The bones dating back to the 7th century BC, and earlier digs at the same patch of ground had already turned up smaller clusters of men killed the same way. And these men may be casualties of a real coup. The leading theory ties them to Cylon, an Olympic champion who tried to seize the Acropolis around 632 BC and failed. The bones belonged to healthy young men. No battle wounds, just the shackles and the row they were laid in. Yet someone still arranged the bodies with care, executed but buried with a strange flicker of respect. So hold the schoolbook picture of gentle, philosophical Athens up next to this. Hemlock for Socrates, a calm cup of poison in a quiet room, sitting in the same city as a trench full of chained skeletons. So there you have it. 6 ways the ancient world dealt with a problem person. 9 men with clubs, a sharpened pole, a chair upholstered in a dead judge, 2 boats and a swarm of flies, a sewn leather sack, and an iron-clamped plank. Makes a parking ticket feel pretty generous.